So this is for the vision and direction for 2024. And this has been a really fun year. 2023, 2024 has been a really fun year. It's been a very educational year and very educational season. And so it's a lot of that is directed and guided what we're doing next year, and some things that we're not going to do that was affected, but things that we are looking to add that we think would be making things even better, even more beneficial. So to begin, we want to describe who we are and what we're doing. And the purpose of Kids of Grace Academy is to glorify God by providing high quality academics, educational assistance, and enrichment opportunities that will equip families to be in control of their children's education and supporting the discipling of the next generation of Christ. At the end of the day, we want to put families back in the driver's seat of their kids' education. The name of the game is essentially two things: discipleship and parental freedom. We want to give parents the choice and the option of what they can do for their kids' education. Now, with that comes a lot of variables and a lot of questions because, as you most likely know, if you get 10 homeschool families in a room, you will likely see 10 different styles of education. If you get 10 homeschool families in a room, there's going to be likely 10 different opinions on how things would go. And that's the same with what we're dealing with here at Kids of Grace. There's a lot of different desires and wants for the programming. So people are coming into Kids of Grace Academy desiring different things. And we, as an organization, want to do our best to accommodate as many people as possible. Now, we know that you can't please everybody. And we know that you're going to have to aim for that 80% um, to accommodate the majority. There's going to be the 10% on either side that has needs that you're just not going to be able to hit. And we understand that. So that has been factored in with this meeting. But what we also understand is people are coming from different backgrounds, different preferences. Some families want Kids of Grace for social interaction, some want it for more academic structure, and on it goes within that spectrum of high academics to low academics, high social. We see a lot of that spectrum. And so, what we're looking to do is accommodate as much as we can and do so well for God's glory. And so, we're going to get into that right now. But before we do, I want to really clarify what we are not and what we hope to do. And part of that is we want to make sure that we are neither the home nor are we the church. And our role in those two organizations is to strengthen the home and support the church. We're not looking to usurp either role, but rather we are looking to build up both. So, how do we strengthen the home? Well, by providing educational and social opportunities. That's the key thing. By allowing families the freedom to choose what they do with their kids for their kids' education. So we want to support the home, strengthen the home. We also want to support the church. How do we support the church? Well, we want to come alongside churches in the process of discipleship, which is also strengthening the home. But we also want to liberate churches from having to run programming and in a lot of ways taken away from what their focus is, and that is being the church of Jesus Christ, functioning in that space. We want to allow churches to not have to spend resources running programs that would in some ways work as we're working, but we want to help take that pressure off, allow them to focus and run their race hard. So we want to keep the church on mission and allow families to have their own educational mission as well. And so to do that, we're going to introduce the idea of a micro school. That's the new shiny change that we're looking to bring into 2024-25. And that is this idea of a micro school where home meets school. And we define a micro school as a cooperative school that meets 1 to 3 times a week, where students are led and instructed by a teacher who partners with parents and sets the students up to work from home. So there's a lot to unpack there, and that's going to be most of what we're doing today. But where students are led by an instructor or a teacher who partners with parents and sets the students up to work from home. So the benefits of a micro school, before we can later define further what that will look like, are the following. We're going to provide full academic support. And again, we'll get into what that looks like soon. But the idea behind it is we want to allow a family who are looking to either pull their kid from government school or transfer from another school that they're not thriving in, and give them that academic support and give them a lane to run in that their kid will thrive in. And so give them that full academic support. We also want to provide, and one of the benefits are the flexibility and options for families. Again, 10 different families in a room, you're going to get 10 different desires, but we want to provide the options that families can choose what they need and excel in those options. And then we're going to provide a classroom setting with experiments, projects, and other group activities that generally wouldn't come in a normal homeschool situation. And even building upon what could normally happen in a co-op situation. We're looking to build upon what we can do in those situations. So changes that will be coming in 2024-25 is first a change in vocabulary. What I mean by that is we are going to sunset a few terminologies that we've been using fairly regularly. Now, we're not going to be militantly trying to get them out, but it's something that we are looking to adjust going forward. And one of those words is the word hybrid. We are going to be sunsetting that term, hybrid classes. And we're also going to sunset the term co-op. And because what we're looking to do is merge them together into form what we're calling the Kids of Grace Micro School. So you can call it Kids of Grace, whatever you want to do, but that's what we're looking to do. We're going to merge those together. And the reason for that is not because we're the grammar police or the terminology police, but we want to make things clear as to what we're doing. We want to be abundantly clear as to where we're going. What's in a name? Well, it's important to understand what you're doing or what you're calling something that will determine what you're doing. And so we just want to clean up the vocabulary in 2024-25. We're also going to add a second day to our already scheduled programming. So we're going to add a second day option to what we are calling currently the co-op. We're adding a second day option. We're going to elaborate on that in a second. And we are going to have teachers run the classroom. So we're going to pivot on how we function, and we're going to pay teachers to run the classrooms. Now, a lot of you might be bristling initially at this, but know that we are looking to bring in a lot of the families that are currently being teachers. So essentially, we are going to pay those who we are now calling or referring to lead teachers. They would be on the Kids of Grace team, and they would be running it. We'll talk about what the role of a teacher is in a minute. And then we're providing a grad track or a grad track for high school. So the high school will have a graduation track that we'll be providing. Again, we'll elaborate on that in a second. And we're going to have essentially 4 stages of the micro school. We're going to have starters, primary, middle school, and high school. Now, the starters are going to be consisting of the preschool, a new idea, a new concept called junior kinder that we're introducing, and kindergarten. And then primary will be 1st through 6th grade, middle school will be 7th through 8th grade, high school will be 9th through 12th grade. So let's break this down a little bit here. So Within this, there'll be, for the starters, three classrooms. There'll be one, a preschool teacher. Second will be a junior kinder teacher, and third will be a kindergarten teacher. Now let's elaborate on the starters for a second. The preschool will consist of the early age of 3 to the 4-ish. There's going to be some spongy overlapping with a lot of these ages, but essentially this is for kids that are needing a little programming, but not an overwhelming amount. And there's going to be different curriculum that we are going to introduce, but it's not going to be ratcheted up as it would be with the junior kinder and regular kinder, where there's going to be some intentional learning involved with that. Now, there's going to be one teacher per class. So there's going to be a preschool teacher, a junior kinder teacher, and a kindergarten teacher. The starters are also going to oversee the daycare component that would be involved with some of these factors. So keep that in mind, that they will be under the daycare would be under the jurisdiction, if you would, of the starters. But there will be one teacher operating each one of these classes. Now, there is overlap. Junior kinder and kinder are going to look very similar. It's just going to be a slight abridgment of the curricula for the younger group. And so it's the way it's going to shake up is you're going to have, and there's the ages are going to be a little relative with the starters. You're going to have the 3-year-olds securely in the preschool, whereas a 4-year-old could go preschool, junior kinder, and a 5-year-old could go junior kinder into kinder. And that's going to be based on development and how the teacher and the parent assess where the kid should be. And that's essentially the name of the game. It's going to be parents collaborating and working with the parents and teachers working together. And so the kindergarten is going to be the last stage. Now, the question would automatically arise, why are we moving the kindergarten out of the grade school? And why are we moving the 6th grade out of the middle school? And that's a great question. And I know a lot of great organizations retain that. This is what we're doing this year. And the reason we're making that adjustment is a few levels. We could definitely justify keeping it as it is, but to get where we want to go and make things as excellent as possible, this was the decision we decided. And the reason for that is because in a lot of ways, the first grader and a kindergartner are not as academically compatible as we want them to be. For instance, learning to read is something that they start in kindergarten, and it's something that they are maturing into at first grade. But to put them at the same place, at the same time, at the same level at the start of the year is going to put the kindergartner at a disadvantage because they don't know, you can't do reading material type things. And it puts the first grader in a backwards position where you're having to play down to the kinder level. And so this will allow the kindergarten to really be what it needs to be, and that is kindergarten. Kindergarten has been hijacked in the last 10 to 15 years and really made to be first grade 2.0. And what we want to do is allow for that space of kindergarten to remain what it once was before it got moved up. So we want the kindergartners to move at a pace that fits them, that doesn't overwhelm them, and they're not having to keep pace with the older kids. And the older kids aren't going to have to lag with necessarily the younger kids. And so it puts them in a good spot. And so the kindergarten will be distinct with its own group, its own teacher. Junior kinder is going to be essentially the junior varsity to the varsity. So when a kid's ready to move up to kindergarten, that's when that assignment will be made. And so talking now primary, first and second grade will be a distinguished class. Third and fourth grade will be a class, and fifth and sixth grade will be a class. Now, the question is, why did we move the sixth grade out of the middle school? And again, this is not a moral thing. This is not a question of should they not do it. The reality is it could go either way. We made the decision because we found that in a lot of ways, a sixth grader probably has more in common emotionally than a fifth grader, or that with a fifth grader than with an eighth grader, if that makes sense. They likely are more in line emotionally, even physiologically, with a fifth grader than with an eighth grader. Eighth grade is rampant towards high school. Sixth grade, we wanted to buy another year of of just grade level teaching that before we really get into the middle school uh, craziness where there's so many other changes factoring into the educational system. So it was a decision we made. It allows for the sixth grade to have one more year in in the grade school level. It also allows the seventh grade to be. It helps with the programming with seventh grade as well, and we'll break that down in a second. So the fifth grade and sixth grade will be a combined class, and that's how we're going to roll with it initially with next year. The middle school is also going to have a single teacher, but we're going to break that up into two classes. There'll be a seventh grade class and an eighth grade class with the intention of keeping the class sizes small. Now, this is probably the one that would be combined should the number of enrollments require it. Our goal is to keep class sizes to about 15 to 20, and right now we are already exceeding that in some of the classes. And so what we'd like to do is break that down. So if we do, they would each have their own classes, and each class would have their own teacher. Now the reason for that and not subject based learning is because we want to have a single point for the each grade to have. That way a parent can track with where their kids are at with a single point with one parent, with one teacher on each level. So that's where we're going to be. When it gets to high school, it's going to be subject based learning where a teacher is going to be assigned per uh, per class. So there'll be math teachers, science teachers, etc. So those are the four stages of the micro school. And the changes from the structure are the following. We'll be publishing a full preschool through high school academic scope and sequence. This is something that has been incredibly challenging and fun. As a group, we've been putting this together, and it's been really good. A lot of ironing, sharpening iron with that. And what this will do, and this is not quite published yet, we're still in the final stages of editing it. But what this will be is essentially the roadmap for the academics of Kids of Grace Academy. This is going to speak to what subjects are being taught, what curricula is being used for each subject, and how it's going to be taught. And the whole point with this is to give families the autonomy to take those subjects, to take that curriculum and take it home and do it on their own. So this will provide a full academic structure of what families can and if they want to need to do to get their kids on a scope and sequence to graduate ultimately. And what we've done is we have started rather than with preschool working up, we've started with 12th grade and we've worked backwards. What I mean by that is we have looked at the end goal where the student or the child hopes or and aspires to be, and we worked back to see how we need to get there. And what we've discovered and what we've planned is a curriculum that will get us there. Now, again, with this, we are not imposing this on anybody. What we are doing is simply providing, hey, this is what we will be using in our micro school. Families are welcome to use whatever curriculum they want at home, but this is what we will be choosing. And what this will allow for is for families to really maximize what they're doing at Kids of Grace Academy. So if at Kids of Grace Academy you're doing the science at home, it's going to coincide with exactly what we're doing in the classroom. And if you're doing the social studies science at home, history at home, it's going to coincide exactly with what's going to happen in the classroom. And so families will know what's happening. They'll have the at home reading. They can go at their own pace. They just will know what's being discussed and taught at Kids of Grace for that particular week. We'll also be adding multiple campuses to ensure smaller classrooms. So that's one thing we are working on, more on that in a little bit. We'll be adding multiple campuses to ensure smaller classrooms and also to allow for families to not have to drive very far. Obviously, there's going to have to be some commute, but the goal is to target spaces close to where the plurality and majority of people are. Teachers will be paid. So one dynamic that we're doing is teachers will be receiving compensation for their services. Again, what we're not looking to do is bring in a bunch of outside people that don't know the program. We'd love to hire from within, people that are already plugging in and giving them that resource of payment for their work, but also to allow them to buy their time, to put time and effort into that. And the other one is teachers will be trained. One thing that we are looking to do as bringing them into the pay position, we are looking to make sure that they have the tools they need to execute the job that they want and need to do. And finally, teachers will prep materials and prepare lesson plans. So hence the compensation. We're looking to have them be the load carriers of executing that scope and sequence. They're going to be the ones building out the lesson plans and doing things like that. And so one distinction that I want to make that may come up is, are we only hiring certified teachers? And what if you're not a certified teacher, but you have a heart and passion to teach kids? Where does that fit in? Well, the good news is we don't have to hire government instituted certified teachers. Now, we would prefer to hire people that can teach well. That is our main priority. The two priorities that we look for in a teacher is their ability to teach and their love for the Lord, not necessarily in that order. But we want them to have a heart and passion for the Lord, and we want them to possess the basic skills of communication and teaching. After that, when it comes to classroom management and all that stuff, that's things that we're going to put into the training. But our main priority is to get the right people in the right position, and that's who the Lord would have. And so we're not necessarily looking to bring in tons of outside people. There will be some, especially at the high school, secondary level, but we just want people that have a heart for the Lord, who want to come alongside the vision, partner with parents, and collaborating in that way. And that's the final thing. Teachers will partner with parents. One thing we want to make is a very clear bridge of communication. If there's behavioral issues, if there is academic struggles in one area, we want people to be able to lean on each other and be utilized in that way. So this is what a day is going to look like. The primary day is the example I'm using. The good news is these are all posted right now on the website. If you go to kidsofgrace.com/about, you will be able to see all of these, the different levels at their for the day breakdown will be. But let me explain this in a little in briefly. I'll spend some time here. So day one and day two, and then we have two opt-in classes, and I'll explain what that is in a second. So what we want to do is give families the option. And if all you really want to do is a single day of what we currently call co-op, well, that's the first option. That's going to be what we call the single option on the web. But that's going to be an easy option. That's going to be consisting of science, a new subject we're rolling out called life skills, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be kind of a home ec blend. We're taking some cooking, some baking, some sewing, some general life school, some like tools 101, how to adjust that and change that. Basic things that I think we all probably wish we had learned earlier in life. We're going to start doing that on day one. That's going to be a life skills class. We're going to have a programmed curriculum designed for that. And then finally, Bible. So that's going to be the day there. There's going to be some pacing with that. Uh, in addition, just to backtrack, we are also going to do the fun days that we have been doing, talent shows, city with foundations, things like that, where you get a lot of those fun extracurricular things baked into that experience. So, parties and stuff like that. That's still going to be part of these days. But we're going to end with Bible. We're really looking to advance that, really get some deep rooted Bible knowledge built into that. The other then after day one, there's going to be an opt-in, and that's going to be for math. If you want to take a math class, grade level math class, we're going to have teachers teach that as well. And so that's going to be grade level math class for those who need and want help and support in that area, and there will be paid options for that. The second option would be to do both days. Notice how there's no redundancy. There's two fresh days of social studies, art and music, and a literature component that's going to be added on the second day. And there's also a second opt-in class that will be English. So if a family is struggling with English, there's going to be a English curriculum given with IEW supplemental in that. So if you want to opt into that to help with what you're doing, that'd be great. And so the options are you could do both days, you could do one day, you could do both days and one opt-in class, or both days with two opt-in classes. And so essentially you could, in almost every level, get your curriculum and your educational planning from Kids of Grace Academy and be off to the races. Now you're still homeschooled at this level. You're not. You can call it whatever you want, but these are going to be 2 days a week where the kids do the work at home. And so the homework, there's going to be workbooks, there's going to be homework involved baked into that. The literature class, especially, there's going to be some at-home reading. There's a book list that we're going to publish, things like that. Now, if you want to simply get enrichment social time, you can still do that. We would recommend day one being the one you would choose for, but you can definitely still do that and not be obligated to do our curriculum that we are curating. You're just not going to get as much out of it, if that makes sense. You're not going to be able to answer some of the questions as easily as those who are tracking with what we're doing. Now, we are using very mainstream curriculum that a lot of families have used and know to use. So it shouldn't be a total culture shock, but that's a heads up there. So that's what a primary day looks like. There are no opt-in days, opt-in classes for the starters or the middle school. I don't have the middle school slide ready, but what the middle school slide will look like is the middle school will just run the time of the three classes and the opt-in. So all of middle school, there's no opt-in classes, there's no a la carte with middle school. It's going to be the full day, that time period, and it is going to stagger with the redundancy the same way without the redundancy the same way the primary school day is operating. So our scope and sequence, I'm going to break this down a little bit of how we're going to be rolling this out. And it's going to start with it in itself, but we're going to use the fourth grade as an example. So if you have a fourth grader, this is how we would approach what lessons they're going to be doing, how we get there. So, and what you as a family can choose to do at home if you want. So it's going to start with the scope and sequence, which is all the subjects kind of outlined for all the years. We're going to break it down by subject. So let's go with science. So for what we're teaching in the class, we have the scope and sequence, which dictates the subject. So fourth grade science. And where they go from there is what curriculum we're using. Well, we're choosing to use Apologia. It is a thorough science curriculum that also really complements a classroom, but also really is a good reader for home. And that was kind of the criteria for a lot of it. Is this something that can be replicated at home? Is this something that can be also made to fit into a classroom? And Apologia is a great option for that. So we're going to take the curriculum. So we have a fourth grade science curriculum. And what we're going to do is create a yearly cycle. So this next upcoming year is going to be the cycle of astronomy. Now, what's the deal with cycles? What's the point with that? Well, the cool thing is we're going to stack the cycles in a way where every year there's a different science, but every time, every year that the kid will be able to take it, what we're going to do is the teacher is going to break it down in a way that is distinct for that age group. That's the benefit of this. So we're going to do next year, it'll be astronomy, and the curriculum is going to dictate this for the home learning. So a mom can take the Apologia with the right edition, and they can essentially read it at home to the whole family, to the whole grade school gamut. They can read the assigned reading to the first grader through the sixth grader. But then when they come to Kids of Grace, there will be the teacher will make the lab work, if you would, into the science experiment. That teacher is going to take from the scope and sequence and make that experiment more available for that age group. So the first and second grade, they're going to have a more abridged version of the experiment, whereas the fifth and sixth grade, it's going to be more complex with more components. They're going to be doing more things with that. And so the teacher is going to build out that lesson plan based off the reading that the family knows about from at home. So that would be the curriculum and the yearly cycle. So they'll know what book to read, how many pages to read. They'll come to Kids of Grace preparing to learn about, in this case, Mars. And the teacher will have prepared a short little discussion on Mars to summarize what has already been discussed at home. And if not, that again, if a family chooses to do something different for their science, that's fine too. But just to know that to get the most out of it, they would have already read the astronomy, and then the teacher will provide the science experiment for all of the class to participate in. So this is the sequence in which we go down. This is how we get where we're going to go. And we're going to be doing this for every subject. Every subject's going to be broken down. And we're going to try to be as integrative as possible. So as many curriculums as families can, they can use that and take it at home and read it with their whole family. And that way they can have family time. So social studies is going to be the same way. Science is going to be the same way. Bible is going to be the same way. But each teacher is going to have it broken down at a more advanced level, or the opposite, depending on the class. So that's our scope and sequence. So now the question of where are you going to be and how much is all this going to cost? Well, it's a great question. And unfortunately, it's probably not going to be as satisfying as you want it to be. But here's what we have. We're going to be working with churches. We have some conversations are very much ramping up, and we're really excited about the prospect of working with certain churches to be hosting Kids of Grace Academy in the 2024-25 year. We're not at absolute liberty to discuss when and where, but keep in mind we are looking to keep this in the communities that you guys are in. And so finding churches that are around where the families are is important to us. But we are already working, we're already in advanced conversations with a lot of churches, with a couple churches, and the prospects are looking really good. That's going to be our main priority, is to work with churches to allow, and part of the criteria is that allowing for our full programming to take place at their church. Again, we're going to be targeting multiple locations for small classes. Our goal is to grow this. We see a need. We see that this is a service that we're providing that could benefit a lot of Christian families. And so what we want to do is not necessarily have it be centralized in one spot. We are looking to decentralize it, but also make it accessible to as many people as possible, many Christian families as possible. And so each location will be financially set up to be self-sufficient. That includes, so each location will pay for its teachers, it'll pay for an administrator, and it will pay for the kind of the corporate energy there. That's what each group will pay for it. So that's going to be factored into the price. And the price is going to be standard across all the locations. So let's hypothetically say a Newburgh campus is not going to be cheaper than an Oregon City campus. That's not how it's going to work. They're all going to be the same pricing across the board. So you're not going to get gouged one way or another. And just so you also know, you're not going to be having to float the bill for someone else across the freeway. And pricing will be scaled depending on what you register for. So if you are only taking the 1-day option, you're going to pay less than if you're taking the full deal. However, if you are taking what we're calling the home run deal, it will be prorated, and there'll be a discounted price. So you're not going to have to pay for the equivalent of 3 different times. It'll be prorated to make it reasonable for the families. We want to make this as reasonable as we can, but we also want to cover costs, and that is something that we are factoring in. There is inflation that has happened, and there's just a lot of moving pieces. So we're looking to make this as fair as possible, but also we don't want things to financially fall short. And so we are going to be announcing these locations as soon as possible. I didn't want to put a date on the calendar just to be wrong, but we are feverishly working on this, and we are hoping to have this up as early as next month. But again, we want to make sure it's well ready before we do that. But it's definitely going to be in this before things start ratcheting up for spring. So we're looking to get this done in the next month or so, get people well acquainted with what we're doing and be able to plan ahead. That's our goal. But we know that clocks are ticking. We will be launching our scope and sequence sooner than that. So you'll know, if nothing else, what the curriculum will be, what will be taught. That will be brought out before even these other things will be announced. That's going to be published very soon. And we'll send out notifications when we do that. So that concludes our discussion, and I appreciate you guys tracking and staying with this whole process. We have 2 mechanisms to communicate. We have the About page, which is there, and that's kidsofgrace.com/about. But we also have an email. If you have a specific question, if you know you're not going to make the meeting, the family chat meeting, or if it's a little more complicated, or if you just want to, it actually would help us to send us that question so we can essentially compile a preemptive FAQ list that would help motivate that family meeting. That would be really helpful. We've created an About page that's still being updated, just so you know. There's some coming soon portions of some of the FAQs. We're still getting that ready to go, but it should lay out the structure of a lot of what I just discussed. And so you can go to that right now and see that for yourself. And if you want to rewatch this video, we're going to be sending a link out pretty quick here. Also, we will be posting it on the web as well. But in addition to that, the website should have details that I may not have even mentioned in this meeting. So that concludes our meeting. I am so happy that you were able to join me today. And I'm excited for what the Lord has. And we really hope that you could be a part of it if that's what the Lord's moving and directing your family to do. So God bless you guys. We will see you all tonight at the family chat if you're able to make it. If not, we'll see you when we see you. God bless.